one more that we should get to that I felt like was of consequence was the Eagles Vikings game, and this one was funny to me because it's like living in two completely different realities. Where if you're in Philadelphia, it's like Jalen Hurts, which I didn't realize, next to Nick Foles and Donovan McNabb, the third perfect QB rating in Eagles history.
Okay, so that's great because Nick Sirianni told me after the game that he said, and I didn't look it up because it was too late. Like, and I wish I had a research department to call on this. He said it was the first time he thought it was the first time he'd ever had anybody with a perfect passer rating. So that at least checks out with the Eagles thing. Now I'm not sure, what he might or might not have seen with, the guys he was with in Indianapolis, which would have been like Luck, Brissett. Maybe he wasn't with Wentz, but Rivers, and then he was with Phil Rivers in San Diego too. But
Phil.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because it does validate what he said to me last night.
This game is one that absolutely drives me nuts, though. But let me finish my previous point. So you have the Eagles being like, everything is perfect, and we fixed everything, and we're throwing the ball deep. Awesome. The Vikings lost by 6, and there were multiple touchdowns taken off the board in that game on BS calls. And I'm with TJ Hawkinson that I thought that
that was a spectacular effort.
That was a incredible effort. And while I guess you and I can't have it both ways, Albert, we can't pound the table and be like, Sky Judge, Sky Judge, Sky Judge. And then when New York calls in and overturns a catch, we can't be like, get out of here, And so I understand it.
But, yes, we can.
Okay, tell me how I can have my cake and eat it too, please.
Because New York is dealing with a ton of different things all at once.
And you're saying Sky Judge is game flow specific.
The Sky Judge is calling things in the flow of the game and working with the official, yes.
All right.
And I think there's something to that. And I think having that person as a part of the officiating crew would make it more efficient. And you don't want me to get into my officiating rant because I'm really upset with it right now. And I have been for the last 3 or 4 weeks because I think it's ruining the best sport on the planet. My overarching opinion on this is that technology should make the game more efficient, not less efficient, more streamlined, not less streamlined. And instead of working creatively to get there, what the NFL has just done is it's just made it additive. It's just, let's just throw it on top of everything else we have. And you see the result.
Yeah. And then there was a bad, I think it was like a holding call or something like that was really just like unappetizing. I was really disappointed in that one too. So in a lot of ways, it's like you almost did lose this game to Carson Wentz. Like, and what really bothers me, and this is a hill that I'm going to die on, but why we don't treat the Eagles like the Chiefs. And I get it. Chiefs won back-to-back Super Bowls. They've won 1 billion Super Bowls, whatever it is. The Eagles have been there twice in the last 3 years, and yet we never give them they'll figure it out offensively.
The benefit of the doubt. Right.
And the Patullo thing drives me crazy because it's like, I don't know. I get mad because like when AJ Brown doesn't get any targets, he gets to sit at his locker and then be like, oh, I'm not talking to anyone today. And then go home and tweet a Bible quote about like being ignored or whatever. And then this is just like, oh, I'm not causing any drama. And then you go and create drama or you read a book on the side, and there's this whole song and dance that goes with these receivers not being fed. But part of the reason that they have games like this, and both of them are going to have 1,000-yard seasons, Albert, they always do, is that when you develop, and Kevin Patullo was a play caller for 6 weeks. So, okay, you're going to develop tendencies that you then correct and destroy people on by reversing those tendencies. So, perfect example. Like how many weeks in a row they're not throwing the ball from under center with play action. They're not throwing the ball from under center and play action. Well, here's a game where they need it and they use play action and they threw the goddamn ball and no one was within 10 feet of Devonta Smith and he scored a touchdown. Like, that's how this is supposed to work, right? I mean, am I insane?
I think it's just having answers too. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's why you build the roster this way. We mentioned about Sirianni and what a good job he does of managing all the egos. And like, I think people who think that they're going to trade AJ Brown in season are out of their minds. that's how you've built this team. Like that's Jalen Carter being on the roster. It was managing some of the stuff with Darius Slay. It was all of the different stuff that you've dealt with. Like if you're going to build the roster that way, there are going to be a lot of egos that you're going to have to work with. And the payoff is the balance that you have where like if the run game isn't quite right or isn't where you want it to be, which clearly it isn't where it was last year because last year was a historic level, you have another answer. You can kind of rework the offense and figure out who you need to be and what you need to lean into. And I think that's really where they are right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, like, well, we can't just, roll the ball out and rush for 200 yards every week. So how do we work this a different way than we did before? And, lo and behold, Jalen Hurts perfect passer rating against a Brian Flores defense. And then the two receivers combined for over 300 yards.
I just think it's one of those deals, Albert, though, where it's like giving a kid what they ask for when they want dessert for dinner. And then
the expectation is going to become that it's going to be this every week, which is unrealistic also.
And then Eagles fans forget, and I know I'm stepping on a hornet's nest here, but then they forget the games where Jalen Hurts, they know that Jalen Hurts has to throw for the entirety of the game, and he's under pressure for half of the snaps, and he makes some kind of not great decisions, right? I mean, I think part of the revolution here when the Eagles won the Super Bowl was that they took an insane amount of they put responsibility on his plate, but in the ways that empowered him, and they took away the need for him to throw the ball 40 times a game.
Well, right. That was it. And that's just
why are we trying to go back there?
That's just it. It's like that everything does run through the run game. And so you can still have a game where you rush for 45 yards, which was the number yesterday, and have that run game materially affect the way that you're being defended in the passing game. And I think that's 100% what it was. And it's the ability to say, it's not like, let's drop back and throw it 45 times. Like it's, which like is kind of like that old dumb let Russ cook thing, which was like totally dismissing the fact that so much of what they did with Russell Wilson in Seattle over the years was based on how well they were able to run the ball
and hiding him from his worst impulses.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And in this case, it's sort of like there's some similarity there in that, like, okay, like, so you only ran the ball for 45 yards and 2 yards a carry, but did the run game affect the way that the defense was handling you? And yes, the answer is yes, it did. And, so that creates an environment where they still only, you had the 3 sacks and had 26 called pass plays, and they're able to throw for over 300 yards. There's an efficiency to that.